Hey everyone, welcome back to Right Media Group Chronicles. We dive into the stories behind successful agencies, the wins, the lessons, and everything in between. Today, we have Trevor Dudeck. He is the founder of Lemonade. Trevor, it is great to have you on the show.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, for people who may not know you yet, can you give us a quick overview of Lemonade? And also, you had a recent partnership with Hawk Media, I believe.
Correct. Absolutely. So I'll give you a quick elevator. Basically, I kind of started my career in sales and media at similar times. So always kind of been a parallel path in kind of both of those industries. Did my kind of tour in production as a PA, as an editor, as all of those things. Realized that I was bad at all of those. I quickly realized that I was more of a producer and kind of a people organizer and someone who liked to put projects together. So I ended up at a production company in San Francisco where I met my business partner who ultimately I left that production company and started Lemonade with as my co-founder, and that was about 8 years ago. And we sort of started with this idea that we were both really passionate about storytelling and content production, and had both come up in entertainment and media in different ways. But we needed more. We needed the other pieces of the puzzle. We needed social and influencer and paid media, and so we needed to build a bigger app for our clients. And that was the impetus for starting Lemonade. And then as we grew, we sort of found some client concentration in three key areas: gaming, so video games, entertainment, and technology, specifically emerging tech, AI, Web3, some of the kind of really exciting, innovative areas. And we just got the most enjoyment out of those pieces of the puzzle and those types of clients. So we started to double down there. And then happenstance, without looking for it, last year, we were approached because of some networking we were doing. And at the same time, we were kind of looking for a way to scale our performance marketing efforts. And it was sort of a crossroads of like, do we build a bigger team? Do we partner with someone? What do we do? And Hawk Media had this great opportunity for us to essentially be acquired by them. And they were on this big acquisition tilt, which they still are. And now we're a part of a much larger organization, 350 plus people. And now we've kind of got this great combination of the creative and the storytelling and the performance to back it up. So that's how we got here.
Incredible, incredible partnership, it sounds like. I mean, I speak to somebody before as well. They also had a sort of acquisition. How are you finding the partnership? How does it work? Is Lemonade still sort of an agency, but it's sort of below Hawk Media?
Sure. So we maintain our brand and a lot of our expertise within the verticals that I mentioned: gaming and entertainment and tech, and certain team members, that decided they wanted to be a part of that journey, as you go through these acquisitions, which I was, first time for me. I've never been through one of these, but some people want to be along for that journey, some people don't. And so naturally, there's a little bit of change and disruption that happens there, but we maintain some of that core kind of ethos, that allows us to serve those clients. And then we inherit all of the resources of the larger parent company, if you can think about it that way. So I would say we all operate really as one team under, one group of services, group of agencies. And I specifically feel really lucky because I get to work on this kind of almost like task force type team. I kind of call it like a war room of marketers. So I work with all of the other acquired founders, and, each week we get to go into a room or a Zoom room, is kind of all distributed, and say, hey, we've got an agency that's a specialist in Amazon, an agency like us that's got like creative and storytelling and gaming, and, Hawk with performance marketing,
Wow.
and then else over here that does educational PR, and what does our client need today? Or what does this prospect need today? And how can we apply the right resources? And instead of, in the past, having to get on LinkedIn, figure out the network of, who we can bolt on as a contractor, which I've done for years and have nothing against. Now it's like, who do I Slack? Who do I pick up the phone, to call and say, hey, this is the resource we want to apply to get the most leverage here. And that's really what we were advancing with this acquisition. We were being able to grow and scale in a way that would allow us to go after bigger and better opportunities.
It's like you say, it's like an army force of like all these marketing experts in each specific industry, pretty much. So I'm guessing if your clients need help in the educational space, anything like that, there is that partnership that you have access to.
Exactly. For example, that's an agency run by a gentleman named Jacob here, and he's built that firm up for, I think, nearly 15 years. And, while it's not an area that I'm specialized in, I do get those opportunities as an agency. Lemonade has worked with Pearson and McGraw-Hill and some, large education enterprises over the years, but I wouldn't consider us specialists in it. Now, the next time when someone comes knocking or, prospect presents itself and is interested in that, now we have a resource from an expertise perspective, whether it's PR they need or something else, we have that subject matter expertise, which is really exciting to me.
Yeah, no, of course. How does Hawk currently approach lead generation in the environment?
Sure, good question. And I think actually this is a topic that I personally love and I spend a lot of time on because I feel like most agencies rely quite a bit on referrals and don't do a lot of proactive marketing.
You are so
And I
right
would
with that.
say,
Yeah.
don't you see that too?
Yeah, I've spoken to so many agency owners, and that seems to be sort of they're like, yeah, I do network and referrals, but that's sort of a bottleneck in and of itself, right? Referrals, you can't pump more money into it. You get what you're given.
Yeah, and we have a great referral network too, but um and it's even stronger now. So
Yeah,
I've
I can
learned a few
imagine.
things about that. But what I will say is we really grew Lemonade off the back of paid marketing and events, in addition to referrals and doing good work. Sure, but I would say the number one way that we grew was through paid, and that started day one. Day one, before we even had an office, had a team, I turned to my co-founder, Rowan, and I said, "Hey, you got to trust me. Get me a credit card, and I'm going to spend 10 grand a month on paid ads. And I promise this is going to work. I've learned a lot about how to do this from the previous companies we've worked at. And there's an underdeveloped opportunity here, in terms of the keywords we can go after and how we can position ourselves." And within 6 months, we'd landed Meta as our biggest first
Wow.
client from that effort. But within the first month or two, we had landed clients using that strategy. And we just continued to refine, and we haven't turned it off for 8 years. It's the number one thing that I kind of do not cut. And it's super important. We've dialed in all of our keywords. We add and experiment others, but we do everything else. We go to events, we do referrals, we do cold email, we do social, we do all those other things. But I just think committing to some really proactive outreach method or whatever works for you. Some agencies do great with like organic, for example, which we never really nailed that at Lemonade for ourselves. It's important. So I'll get off the high horse, but I just think so many agency owners feel like they'll get to it eventually and they never do. But I would get to something day one.
Yeah, another challenge I see with agency owners is you are so sort of, how to say, infatuated with delivering for your clients that you tend to forget about your own agency. But the thing is, as soon as a client comes on, they can leave, right? And you can't just rely on that source. You constantly need to be putting in time within your pipeline to make sure there's always something on the low burner, per se. And you've clarified that it's very important. With cold email specifically, is something I wanted to touch a point on. How have you found it work for your agency or not work as well?
Cold email is something we've had on and off. I wouldn't say as consistent. I'd probably say we could have been more consistent there. There've even been times during our life cycle that we even hired another company to do it who was really good at it, when we weren't really good at it. Now, after our acquisition, we've got an entire life cycle department, so we don't have to outsource that. I would say there is good opportunity there. There's millions of dollars business that we've seen done there, but we never quite cracked it. The majority of the time that Lemonade was operational, like pre-acquisition, it's something we didn't put enough time into. If I'm really just giving it the best
Yeah, I
analysis.
love how transparent you are, but you're right. It seems to be a current struggle cold emails between agency owners, especially direct approach. And most of the time, maybe 80%, I get the answer no. They don't seem think it works anymore because we're all getting pitched to all the time, right? It's just it's there's strategies out there now that you build a connection with, and only there then there's a potential for a sale.
Right, right. Yeah, it's tough. I think there is a lot of noise there,
Uh,
but it's like if I put myself in the shoes of what we're telling our clients and literally the millions of dollars I see us doing in transactions for our clients through lifecycle and through email, it is possible. And we're getting much more proactive about it now. But I would say if I'm again just being very transparent, we're getting more proactive about it now because we have those resources and we have that team and people who really know how to do it. When you're a small shop, it's tough.
yeah.
The things that I've had the most trouble really nailing as an independent small agency owner pre-acquisition were organic, social, cold outreach or email, for example. And the things that we particularly nailed were paid, particularly Google. Paid social, we never quite nailed. Google was really our best, and AdWords became our best friend. And events and industry events, specifically in like gaming or entertainment. So I think if you are niched down in any way, really doubling down there can be really helpful.
Yeah.
And then posting,
That's
right?
another topic I keep talking about. It's, niching down is what differentiates you from a generalist marketing agency. Or obviously, Hawk is pretty much a space with experts in every sort of industry. Sounds
Well,
like a great partnership.
it's an interesting conversation, and we've got time, so we should talk about this. So Hawk is agnostic to industry, and I think their approach is a little bit different in terms of their USPs. We found or made the decision that one of our USPs, after a year or two, and again, seeing some client concentration in these areas was one of the reasons. The other reason was we saw that there was low supply of agencies that were serving gaming, entertainment, and emerging tech. So we had a couple of signals there that we felt were opportunities. We saw that there were keywords that were not very competitive that we could win on. And, this is a strategy niching down in a industry versus a service, right? And so you could niche in a service too. We were saying still and still do that we're pretty much full service and pretty much offered most marketing services within those industries. So I do want to differentiate there because you could niche down in a vertical as well as a service or vice versa. For us, we felt like that really worked. And the pitches that we won with companies like Disney or Square Enix or, like major brands or Meta, we literally ran millions of dollars of paid ads for Meta ads for Meta,
Yeah, crazy.
which is crazy. And I still like to brag about that one. But the reason we won that stuff was because we came in and said, sure, there's plenty of agencies that can technically do this service or do what we do, but we are laser focused on your industry or your kind of particular arrangement of industry audience, all this shorthand that clients don't like to deal with, on a weekly call or a monthly basis. Imagine having to talk to your agency about, the performance and the creative and all these things, but also having to educate them on an ongoing basis about your industry every single time. You want to be relieving some of that stress. And so our strategy, again, this is just personally what worked for us, was to be able to say, you're going to be dealing with subject matter experts who've worked in-house at these types of companies, just like yours, as well as agency side, so that they know it just as good, if not better than you. And so that works for us and still works. And then the other play can be, let's go for a specific, sort of expertise level on services against any industry, which is kind of what Hawk does. They're number one performance marketing agency in the US. And that means any of those services, can be combined, but we're just laser focused at being number one at it. We spend $1.5 billion a year on media, have all these connections to the platforms. We're super innovative with getting early access to, try new things and help clients, conquer new platforms. So again, different approaches, right? Each can work. I just feel like it's fun to talk about these because there's an agency owner sitting there somewhere and going like, I need to figure out a way to give us a bit more of an edge. And I was sitting in
Mhm.
that place at
Right,
one point.
yeah. I'm sort of glad you brought that up, because it's sort of been touched on the surface level, but you dove in a bit deeper. You talked about obviously running paid advertising, networking events, and referrals. Is that something that still happens after the partnership with Hawk?
Yes, absolutely. Hawk has a really strong referral network, really the strongest I've seen. So it's something that has official agreements, which is always kind of nice because a lot of these things end up being handshake, which can work if you really know the person, but it's nice to have like a official agreement. They've got an actual partnership team. And so, it's a couple people that focus on everything from events and ways to engage audiences on behalf of the sales team. But also, when one of us says, I think we have a good referral partner opportunity, then they can get that person set up. They can make sure they have everything they need to be a good mouthpiece for us. Also, make sure they're treated properly and fairly as far as getting paid out a referral fee, because that's part of this, right? It's part of what motivates someone, to refer business. One, obviously, they got to feel comfortable that they're putting their reputation on the line and that you're going to do good work. And that's usually the first and most important thing. But once you've gotten past that, and they want to make sure they're actually going to, be able to reap some rewards off of this. And, we've proven that. So I can tell you we've got someone on our referral program just this year or last year in 2025, one individual who's making over six figures just from referrals. So it's crazy. Like if you really do focus on it, uh, any one of these, could be a proven strategy. And it's always illuminating for me. Part of the reason we went through this acquisition was to see these things, because as a smaller shop, right, you focus on whatever you have the most time or often passion for. Like,
Yeah.
I kind of focused on ads and, kind of the sort of inbound piece of it because I kind of knew a little bit about that or enough to be dangerous. And I could build this kind of, funnel over there and events I'd been at. But all the other stuff I kind of fumbled along the way. And now I'm learning other things. Right?
You're right. You're sort of limited to what you know, what you have in front of you. But with this whole bigger partnership, it opens so many other doors. Clearly, what were this position you was in that you were like, I need to partner up with somebody? Maybe
Sure.
there's another agency owner out there, and they could be in a similar situation.
Yeah, so I think there's a few things that come to mind. One, we were definitely at an inflection point of understanding. So specifically for our paid and our performance marketing, we had a small team. That team was working in the way that most smaller shops work, where you've got typically one or two or three people who, excuse me, they might have expertise in one platform. So let's say you've got someone who's really good at Meta or really good at Google. They're going to be okay at Meta and okay at TikTok. But there's no way that you're going to find that unicorn, that jack of all trades that is amazing at all of those platforms, right? And so you just have to be honest with yourself about that. And, we puttered along, we did okay, but there's going to be situations that come up where a client needs a platform, they've got to do some internal learning, or we've got to bring on a new contractor for it. And that's fine, right? We all, go into the well and find those resources. And we did that for many, many years. But we were at an inflection point where it's like, okay, our clients need more performance to back up the creative and the storytelling that we're doing for them. We either need to commit to building out a bigger team there because this kind of bolting on people as we go isn't scalable, or we need either some kind of partnership or maybe an acquisition. Honestly, acquisition wasn't even like on the tip of our tongue. It kind of found us in a weird way. And then once we saw that that was an avenue to solve that problem, that was great. second piece of it that we evaluated was as owners, taking some chips off the table, taking doing a little bit of risk mitigation, right? So, without getting into deal structure details and all that kind of stuff, it's stressful, building a business, it's stressful making payroll, all of these things we all
Yeah.
know. Um, and it's
Not
it's
enough
nothing.
people talk about it, but yeah, there's a lot of downsides as well.
It's like, everybody, wants to be their own boss and
Mm,
call their own shots. I think any one of us who's done that knows that, what that really means is you're working, 12, 15, 16-hour days often. You're working on holidays, you're missing a lot of family time. And, we all do it for, different reasons. And I'm not afraid of doing it many times, again in the future. But at this stage in life, like, it made sense to not do that, to take a little bit of a break from that and to have a little bit more focus on growth and have the resources to go after bigger opportunities. And that kind of ties me into number three, which is, we've always been an agency that punches above our weight, goes after big brands and big opportunities, in addition to working with some of those challenger brands and startups that are trying to also aspire to more. And to do that, we needed to make sure we had the right firepower behind us.
the right amount of ammo as well, might I say. So what would you say is working? I mean, you touched on so many benefits on this partnership and your agency as well. What would you say is currently working really well from something we haven't touched point on yet?
Yeah. I would say, uh, in terms of the growth, things that work well, because we have kind of all of these teams set up that specialize in laser focus, so we've got life cycle, we've got people who just do Meta, people who just do Google, people who just do Amazon, just do TikTok Shop. We've got a partnership with TikTok, we're the first agency to partner with them. All of these kind of resources. The cool thing about that is, when I'm talking to someone in a sales capacity, I can really funnel them in the right place. And it's a little bit less of like the boiling the ocean. Sure, there's opportunities where we're developing like this really comprehensive uh, agency of record type of relationship where there's a lot of services, and I love those clients and those projects. But one of the things that I found we were leaving money on the table with was someone coming in and saying, "Hey, I just need you to run one channel and maybe do a little bit of creative." Or, "Hey, I just need some consulting and for you to handle email." Like the kind of in between, smaller, medium-sized stuff. And we're really well set up for that a la carte work here because we have those teams that just focus on it. And then as those clients grow and we make them more money, then we can just add channels. So that's been a great driver of growth, kind of bolting on to existing clients and the kind of operational expertise that comes with having hundreds of people and knowing how to just onboard and get clients in the door, not have to do all that yourself.
Yeah, so what I gather, what I take away from this is there's an opportunity to downsell to smaller package and also to upsell to a bigger package because of all the potential.
Yes. Yeah,
And is
absolutely.
there anything that's still sort of challenging?
I would say always going to be an ongoing thing is just making sure you have the right people in the right places. I mean, during the transition, there was a lot of focus on that. As I said, there's always a conversation around, okay, who kind of wants to go on this journey, conversations with our staff. Okay, we're going through this acquisition. This is a new company, new culture. Yes, we've done our best to like match those things up, but there's going to be some people who want to join us on the journey and some people who don't. And we made sure that we ensured as best as possible transition for that. But um, the other part of that is also, hey, when new opportunities arise, if we are missing a resource, which we rarely are now, what's the best way to actually solve that? Or do we just need to get more selective because we have so many things we do now? Sometimes the answer is actually just maybe it's not the right client for us, because I've found that I've definitely made some mistakes eating up time going after too many things. let me figure out how to do this thing just because this is a lead and I don't want to let it go. And I think oftentimes that happens, to all of us. And so now that I know exactly what resources we have, what we're really good at, what maybe we are just not staffed for or resourced for, it actually just helps me be a better.
Yeah, of course, because now you have that laser focus. So you really are a specialist in what you can deliver and deliver good results for. And for the new industries or new clients with new challenges you're considering, is it actually worth the time and the effort it's going to take to figure it out?
Exactly. Yeah. And because our, Hawk is parent company or Hawk is industry agnostic, we work on other things now. So we have clients in ecom and CPG and beauty. And then clients like that are interested in getting into gaming or entertainment. So there's all these kind of cool overlaps that are happening. And we have all the resources and the people here that's what I mean is it's more of like arranging, the right team, assembling the right team, and it's here
Mhm.
versus got to go out and find it,
Yeah,
contact it, and, test it because that is that risk, right? When you go find a new contractor and you go like, all right, I guess we'll try this out for a week or two and then, put this person in front of a client and kind of hope that it's out.
that's another podcast in and of itself. I'll tell you that. Is
Yeah.
there any steps you took? Because I mean, it's a dangerous game to play to put a new contractor that you're still letting in front of a customer who can potentially let them down.
I mean, I'd be lying if I said we hadn't done it. I mean, every
Yeah,
agency's probably done it, but you use all the information you have at your disposal to make the best decision you can.
true. Yeah. Luckily, it's no longer an issue for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're grateful at this present time, but yeah,
So, talking about AI and technology, I mean, you talked about serving emerging tech. So, I'm supposing AI is one of your potential industries.
absolutely. Yeah. We've worked with some fantastic AI companies, both those backed by companies like A16Z, who refers business to us, as well as, others that are just, companies you haven't heard of yet that are, kind of navigating their way. So behemoths and, tiny little companies creating companions, companies creating, B2B solutions, we've definitely gotten our hands in the mix. The other thing that's really interesting is live and breathe that ourselves. So we have a solution called Hawk AI, which is a tool that the company has put millions of dollars into to help manage and optimize our paid ads. So it's more of an internal tool, but it kind of allows for 24/7 optimization of our paid media, and uses a lot of AI to help us keep eyes on things when, people are sleeping or away or looking for those optimizations, looking for areas of opportunity. And of course, our experts are actually monitoring that and making sure that there's a good kind of human and AI balance that is happening. And then we have a VC, or Hawk has a VC fund that invests in MarTech specifically. So anything marketing tech related, that could be something like Klaviyo, which we're early investors in at Hawk, or something that is a interesting AI based solution. As long as it's got a slant towards marketing, we typically test it out. If we think it's something we like or might use for our customers, then the people who run the VC fund here will write a check and invest in that and then be a part of its growth. And so that gives us a lot of like skin in the game, both actual monetarily, but also really living and breathing what's happening in the industry, and just allows us to be good stewards of our clients' investments.
Yeah. And do you also use those investment opportunities that you have in emerging tech? You think it's something cool. You've obviously done your research and invested into it. Do you also use some of their technology for either your agency or maybe sometimes for clients because it's just that good?
Yes, that's the idea. So the idea is we look at something, we test it out first ourselves. We say, okay, great, this is something that we could use for clients because we've served thousands of clients overall and hundreds of active clients across the agencies. And so we have a lot of at bats, a lot of opportunities to test out new programs and software and AI solutions. And so we can quickly find out if something's, actually up to par, and going to be helpful. And so that's the process it will go through first. And then if it makes sense to actually invest in, again, I don't work on that team, but if they decide that it's something they want to participate in, great. And it's less so that that affects the performance of the tool, but it gives us early access to things. So for example, we were early investors in Klaviyo, and that gives us early access and, things like what they're innovating on. We're a true partner of theirs. We use that on our lifecycle team for all of our email and outbound efforts for our clients, right? So it allows us to be a lot more aligned with these tools we're actually using versus just a customer who's got to go deal with customer support when something doesn't work. Same way with, when you, unfortunately, it's like a pay to play. It's like when you spend millions of dollars on Meta or Google, they pay more attention to you, right? So we do a lot of kind of educational sessions at Google on a quarterly basis. We have access to people at Meta and TikTok. And this is something that I never had when I was a smaller agency, right? If there was a problem, right, you're just stuck in that loop of dealing with, you know, AI actually
Yeah,
that doesn't understand your questions or why the account's
tell me
been taken
about it.
down, why the
Nowadays,
ads.
you just go to a website and sometimes, people are genuinely just wanna speak to someone and you're there with a bot.
Yes. So that's almost, reason in and of itself to consider a partnership or someone who's got some sway, because I will tell you, it's nice just being able to fire off a Slack and be like, hey, get Meta on the phone.
Yeah, yeah, no, makes sense. With like this AI, seems like it's also a lot of opportunities there. Is there a specific tool or software that is a complete game changer and you think it's incredible? Maybe something you can recommend?
I mean, I don't think there's anything I can recommend above really just getting for anybody else to just get hands on with the popular AI tools like Claude, like ChatGPT. I think that there's so much more that the average person can get out of those. Most people are at like a level 1 usage. The consumer AI. A lot of people I find haven't even paid the $20, version of
Yeah.
ChatGPT. Pay the $20 version at a minimum. Most people don't need the $200 version, but the other thing too is uh, it's got memory. That when that came out, that was a huge game changer. Train it on your agency. Train it on your ways of thinking. Something that we've done is we've put in all of our decks and our processes and our ways of thinking and the way that we approach pitches and creative and storytelling. And so now when we have a new opportunity, instead of like starting with the costly, oh, let's bring a bunch of 50 or $100 an hour people on a phone call to brainstorm, while we may still end up doing that, we don't start there. We can start by putting a brief into ChatGPT and say, hey, use our XYZ process and apply it to this new prospect or opportunity. Come back with the ideas, the pitch outline, all of this, and you banter back and forth. It's not a one-shot deal, right? You
No.
never one-shot things. But within an hour or two, you can have a pretty well-baked pitch, versus what we used to spend many weeks developing.
Yeah, no, for sure. Actually, something I learned recently is there's a hack. So as you just clarified, it takes many tries to get the final output that you're happy with. Apparently, you can reverse prompt your ChatGPT. So all the extra tries it took, you literally ask, now create for me a prompt that would give me this final output in just one go. And it becomes really good. And if you just it's something you can reuse all the time. Yeah, something new I learned and just a
Yeah,
little tip out
that's
there.
amazing. That's amazing. And I think you're right on. I mean, the more you get familiar with it and hands on, the better. Recently saw a study that there's sort of two categories people are falling into at most organizations. So, not agencies specifically, but most organizations, like most of our clients, right? Which is one category is people try a tool like ChatGPT or Claude. They have a good experience. And so now it's a part of their daily life, right? They use it personally and professionally, whether they're on level 1 or they're expert level, like that's another story. Then there's the other category. They use it once, they have a bad experience. Maybe they feel like it's, subpar results or something they could do. And then they become a detractor, right? AI is bad. AI is trying to replace all of us. and they start going down that wormhole. And yes, there's a lot of valid narratives around there that we all need to be super conscious about, especially in the creative industry, be protective about. So I'm not discounting any of that, but I think that if you start falling into that bucket, it gets dangerous as far as being a part of this, right?
I heard apparently ChatGPT is going to be running ads on the platforms now. So that will
Yes.
be something I'm looking forward to and seeing how they will adjust to that, especially in you being in marketing. I'm sure that's something you're researching too.
Yeah. So what we already have begun offering last year is I don't know how much you've dove into GEO or AI search, but AI search is really a big deal and a big disruptor. So over 60% of search that's been happening on Google has now migrated to AI. So that's over half of what you're used to getting as a brand, as a business on Google has now started to happen inside of, for example, a ChatGPT. But it's not the same. It's not the same as, hey, if we make it on the first page of Google, we're in the game, right? We're in the consideration. Any of these, it's going to recommend top three, hey, give me the best agencies in Dallas that do paid media. And it might give you 3 or 5 or 10, or, you might ask it a more specific question. But if you're not positioned for the LLMs and the way that they interpret data, which is a specific structure, if you're not creating content just like you need to for SEO, but now in a kind of slightly tweaked way for GEO, as we call it, and if you're not proactively monitoring that visibility across all of the LLMs, which there are tools to help with, then you're going to fall behind pretty quick. And so something we're doing right now is we're running these visibility checks for all of our clients, but also prospects. And we're saying, hey, how do you show up right now for your target avatar and your target keywords across, the kind of top 5 or 7 LLMs? And most people, it's not very pretty. And so I think this is a big deal. It's a big conversation, and it doesn't mean that we're stopping Google ads. It just
Yeah,
means that we
yeah. You're
need
just
to.
staying on top of the trends pretty much. Very interesting topic, actually. Sort of surface level touched with a couple of other agency owners because everyone's trying to stay on top of the trends and what's going to be the next big thing because that's how you survive, by reinventing your business and adjusting to the times. With like AI search, you mentioned 60% now on Google goes through an AI. Do you think paid advertising still affects that?
So yes, it's a part of it, but think about traditional SEO. I would kind of separate them for the conversation. So if we think about what we know about traditional SEO and what we've been taught over the years, here's some things that'll just kind of help frame it. So traditional SEO, we've all been taught like, hey, best time to start was yesterday, right? Because it's a 6 to 12 month process from the day you start creating blogs and content and videos and all the things that you need to, and tagging them the right way and H1s and all the stuff that's necessary for SEO to actually see good results could take up to a year and then some, right? But it's important, and we've all been told we should be doing it. Then on the other side, you've got paid media, which is going to be faster, but not as long lasting. Keep it up. So both have their place. Now, this opportunity that is emerging with GEO, and I would say this opportunity window is probably the next maybe like 6, maybe 12 months, while a lot of brands have not yet developed an AI strategy or a GEO strategy, is we've taken clients from zero visibility to number 2 so far as our best in their category, meaning like on that top 3 recommendation list in a
Wow.
chat GPT, they're being recommended as the second best in their industry against major multi-billion dollar brands. And we did that in 5 months.
Oh, wow. That's like half the time, pretty much.
Yeah. That window won't exist forever, but I would say there's an opportunity right now. And so we've started adding GEO services to our existing SEO packages. We're not charging more. We're not upselling. We're just saying, hey, if you sign up for our SEO services that we already offer, you automatically will get the AI search packages because our team has adapted. We've simply said, hey, We will begin doing this now because we have to. And if we don't, we're not giving you the best service.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Great. Trevor, thank you so much for taking the
Of
time
course.
for this podcast, sharing your knowledge, letting me pick your brain. If people wanted to connect with you, find out more about your services, where should they look?
I love to connect on LinkedIn. I just feel like it's the easiest to actually connect with people. So Trevor Dudeck on LinkedIn, /Trevor Dudeck. Find me there.
Awesome. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe and let me know your favorite takeaway from Trevor. All the links will be dropped down below so you can easily connect with him.